the compound where babies scream in the night. The Salvatore estate sprawled across 3 acres of prime Los Angeles real estate, hidden behind 12-foot walls, topped with security cameras that saw everything. Infrared sensors monitored every inch of the property. Guard dogs patrolled with handlers twice per shift. Armed men in tactical gear walked the perimeter in coordinated patterns that would make a military base envious. The compound had survived attempted breaches from rival families, federal raids, and even a coordinated assault by the Bratva 3 years ago. But no amount of security, money, or power could stop the sound that shattered the California night. 2 a.m. The screaming started like it always did, a single cry that built into a crescendo of pure agony. Within seconds, the second voice joined, and the twins' desperate wails echoed off the mansion's vaulted ceilings, through the marble hallways, out the windows and into the darkness, where security guards winced and turned up their radio volumes to drown it out. 150 nights, 5 months of hell. Every single night, without exception. Maya Rodriguez stood at her post near the west gate, her hand tightening around her flashlight as the sound reached her. She'd been working here for 2 weeks, and the screaming still made her chest tighten with a pain she couldn't name. In her previous life, she would have known exactly how to help. But that life ended the day Marcus Chen destroyed her nursing license, and her reputation along with it. Inside the mansion, Dante Salvatore sat in his study with his head in his hands, the sound of his daughter's suffering drilling into his skull like a physical assault. The tumbler of whiskey beside him sat untouched. Alcohol didn't help anymore. Nothing helped. He'd spent $3 million on specialists from Boston, Seattle, Johns Hopkins, pediatricians, neurologists, gastroenterologists, even a pediatric psychiatrist, who suggested the babies were mourning their mother. They all said the same thing: some babies just cry. Give it time. They'll grow out of it. But time was running out. Dante could feel his sanity fraying at the edges, could feel himself becoming something darker than he'd ever been. And that was saying something, for a man who'd built an empire on fear. The screaming continued. It always did. Until dawn broke and the twins, exhausted beyond measure, finally collapsed into fitful sleep, only to begin again the next night, like a curse no one could break. Chapter 1. The perfume bottle hit the marble floor with a sound like a tiny cathedral bell shattering. Lily froze, her heart lurching as she watched the amber liquid spread across the pristine white tile of the nursery bathroom, the scent of jasmine and vanilla exploding into the air with an intensity that made her eyes water. She'd only been reaching for the diaper cream. Just the diaper cream. But her hands, shaking from 3 weeks of barely sleeping through the twins' relentless screaming, had other ideas. From the nursery, both babies erupted into that synchronized wailing that had become the mansion's constant soundtrack. Bella's high-pitched shriek harmonizing with Sophia's lower, more insistent protest. 4 months of this. 4 solid months that had driven away 6 maids before Lily, that had turned Gabriel Moretti from Chicago's most feared mafia boss into a hollow-eyed shell of a man. What happened? Harold appeared in the doorway, his butler's composure cracking around the edges. At 55, he'd served the Moretti family for 25 years, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for these 2 tiny tyrants. I broke it, Lily whispered, already moving toward the cribs. Mrs. Moretti's perfume. The one Mr. Moretti keeps in here. I'm so sorry, I'll replace it, But she was already lifting Bella. Always Bella first, because Bella's cries could wake the dead, and the scent clung to Lily's uniform, her hair, her skin. As the baby's face pressed against her shoulder, right where the perfume had splashed, something impossible happened. The crying stopped. Not gradually, not with the usual hiccuping wind-down. Just stopped, like someone had flipped a switch in Bella's tiny brain. Lily stood, frozen, afraid to breathe, afraid to move. Bella's body relaxed against her chest, the rigid tension draining away. Her breathing evened into the soft rhythm that meant sleep was coming. Actual sleep, not the exhausted collapse that usually followed hours of screaming. Sophia was still wailing, but Harold had already pulled out his phone, hands trembling as he started recording. Don't move, he breathed. Whatever you're doing, Miss Carter, don't stop. I'm not doing anything. But Harold was already reaching for Sophia, lifting her carefully, holding her close to Lily's other shoulder where the jasmine scent lingered strongest. 3 seconds, that's all it took. Sophia's cries stuttered, caught, transformed into small snuffling sounds. Her fists uncurled from their angry clench. Her eyes, red-rimmed and exhausted, began to drift closed. Harold's voice shook as he kept filming. Monday, April 15th, 3:17 p.m. Both twins are asleep. Both. At the same time. Without screaming themselves unconscious first. He looked up at Lily, his weathered face transformed by something that looked like hope. Miss Carter, this is a miracle. Chapter 2. Gabriel stood in his study at 2 in the morning, watching security footage of the nursery on loop. The moment Lily held Bella, the instant the crying stopped. The way both twins relaxed against her like they'd been waiting 4 months for exactly this person. He'd seen miracles before, the kind that came from well-placed bribes and strategic violence. This was something else entirely. Tony knocked once before entering, dropping a thick folder on the desk. His head of security looked as exhausted as Gabriel felt, but his eyes were sharp. Full background check. Everything we could find. Gabriel flipped it open. Lily Chen. No, Lily Carter. She'd changed back to her maiden name 18 months ago. 27 years old. Former emergency room nurse at Northwestern Memorial. Left the medical field completely after. Gabriel's jaw tightened as he read the hospital incident report. Lily had been 5 months pregnant when Derek Carter put her in the same ER where she worked. Fractured ribs, broken wrist, severe abdominal trauma. She'd lost the baby, a boy. The file included her handwritten statement to police, the shaky letters spelling out the name she'd chosen. Michael. Derek had served 6 months for assault, 6 months for killing an unborn child, and nearly killing his wife. There's more, Tony said quietly. Derek works for Frank Castellano now, collections and enforcement. And according to our sources, he's been looking for Lily. She owes Castellano $50,000. Medical bills from the miscarriage that she couldn't pay after Derek cleaned out their joint accounts. Gabriel looked up sharply. Castellano's hunting her for 50 grand. It's not about the money. It's about leverage. Tony pulled out another document. Derek wants her back. He's been using the debt as an excuse to track her, to maintain contact through Castellano's people. She's been moving between domestic agencies, working under the table, trying to stay invisible. Gabriel closed the file, his mind already calculating. $50,000 was nothing. Castellano was nothing. A mid-level operator who'd fold the moment Gabriel applied real pressure. But Lily didn't know that. She'd been running, hiding, working as a maid when she could have been saving lives, all because she believed she was trapped. Where is she now? In the servants' quarters. 3rd floor. She hasn't left the mansion since we hired her 3 weeks ago. Harold says she barely sleeps. She's always listening for the twins. Gabriel stood, moved to the window, overlooking the estate. The first hint of dawn was breaking over the city, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Somewhere in this fortress he'd built to keep his family safe, a woman who'd lost everything was sleeping, or trying to. Never knowing that the same walls protecting his daughters could protect her too. He made his decision. Bring her to my office, now. And get me Frank Castellano on the phone. Tell him I'm about to make his day significantly worse. Lily stood in Gabriel Moretti's study, still in her nightgown and robe, her heart hammering against her ribs. It was barely 5 a.m. The twins were still sleeping, 3 hours straight, the longest stretch since she'd arrived. She should have been grateful for the rest. Instead she was terrified. Men like Gabriel Moretti didn't summon maids to private meetings before dawn for good reasons. Sit, he said, and despite the softness of his tone, it wasn't a request. She sat. Gabriel pushed the folder across the desk toward her. I know about Derek. I know about the debt. I know why you're working as a maid, instead of using the nursing degree you earned with honors. Lily's breath caught. Her hands twisted in her lap, finding the scar on her left wrist where Derek had grabbed and twisted until the bone snapped. I don't understand what this has to do with. My daughters sleep when you hold them. For the first time in 4 months, they're peaceful. Gabriel leaned back, his dark eyes never leaving her face. That makes you the most valuable person in this house, possibly the most valuable person in my entire organization. I'm just a maid. I got lucky with the perfume, that's all. You're a trained ER nurse with a gift for calming traumatized infants. And you're running from a man who should be in prison for what he did to you and your son. Gabriel's voice dropped, and for a moment, Lily saw the man who'd built an empire on fear and loyalty. I can make Derek and Castellano disappear. Completely. Or I can make them irrelevant. Your choice. Lily's throat closed. What do you want? I want you to stop being my maid and become my daughter's full-time caregiver. Live here. Care for Bella and Sophia, using whatever medical expertise you have. In exchange, your debt to Castellano disappears. Derek gets a clear message that you're under my protection. He paused. No one touches what's mine. I'm not yours. You will be. The moment you accept this offer, you become part of this family. That means protection. That means security. That means Derek Carter learns what happens when someone tries to hurt one of my people. Lily stared at the folder, at the evidence of everything she'd tried to leave behind. She thought of Michael, of the son she'd never hold. She thought of the twins sleeping peacefully for the first time in their short lives. She thought of the way Gabriel looked at his daughters, the same desperate love she'd felt for the child she'd lost. I want it in writing, she finally said. Employment contract. Proof that the debt is cleared. Everything legal and documented. Gabriel smiled. The first real smile she'd seen from him. Harold will have the paperwork ready by breakfast. He stood, extended his hand across the desk. Welcome to the family, Lily. Try not to break any more perfume bottles. That particular scent is apparently priceless. Chapter 3. Dr. Victoria Ashford stood in the nursery doorway, her medical bag gripping tight in her perfectly manicured hand, and watched Lily rock both twins in the cushioned glider chair. The morning light streamed through the windows, painting the scene in shades of gold that made it look like something from a magazine spread. Perfect mother, perfect babies, perfect family. Except Lily wasn't the mother. She was the help. Victoria had been coming to this house for 5 years. 5 years of tending to Serena's difficult pregnancy, of rushing here for every fever and cough, of being the one Gabriel called when he was afraid. She'd held his hand when Serena died, had sat with him through those first terrible nights when the twins wouldn't stop screaming. She'd been there for everything. And then this girl, this former nurse with a history of domestic violence and debt, walks in and becomes irreplaceable in 3 weeks. Dr. Ashford. Lily looked up, her smile warm but tired. I didn't hear you come in. The girls are doing wonderfully, sleeping 6 hours straight now, eating well, no signs of colic or reflux. Victoria set her bag down with more force than necessary. That's remarkable. Almost suspicious, really. She moved closer, her professional mask firmly in place. May I examine them? Of course. Lily carefully transferred Bella to Victoria's arms, and Victoria felt the baby immediately tense, felt the small body go rigid with impending distress. Bella began to fuss, then cry. Within seconds, Sophia joined her. Here, let me. Lily reached out, but Victoria turned away, rocking Bella with the practiced motion she'd used countless times before. The crying only intensified. How odd, Victoria said over the wailing. They seem quite agitated today. Have you been giving them anything? Any supplements or medications I should know about? Lily's face clouded with confusion. No, nothing. Just their regular formula, and the perfume, of course. Victoria kept her tone light, clinical. The one that magically solved 4 months of crying. I've been meaning to ask, what exactly is in that fragrance? Some scents contain compounds that could affect infant neurology. Lavender, for instance, can have sedative properties. I don't know. It was Mrs. Moretti's. I just accidentally broke the bottle. Victoria finally handed the screaming Bella back to Lily, watching as the crying stopped almost instantly. The sudden silence was damning in its implications. Fascinating. A conditioned response, perhaps. Or dependency. She pulled out her tablet, made a show of taking notes. I'll need to research the specific perfume composition. We can't have the twins becoming chemically dependent on a scent. Chemical dependency? Lily's eyes widened. No, it's not like that. It's just, they respond to being held. To comfort. By you specifically. Not by me, not by Harold. Not even by their own father, in the beginning. Victoria smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'm not criticizing Lily. I'm simply noting patterns. As their physician, it's my responsibility to ensure nothing harmful is happening, even accidentally. She left the nursery, and found Gabriel in his study, reviewing financial reports with Tony. Both men looked up as she entered. How are they? Gabriel asked immediately. Thriving, which is wonderful. But I do have some concerns. Victoria sat, crossed her legs, adopted her most professional demeanor. The twins have developed what appears to be a very specific attachment to Lily. They become distressed when anyone else holds them, even for routine medical examinations. This level of exclusive bonding, at 4 months old, is unusual. Gabriel's expression darkened. You're saying there's a problem with them being calm? I'm saying we should monitor the situation carefully. Lily has access to the medication cabinet for the twins' vitamins and gas drops. She has nursing training, which means she knows what substances could induce sleep or calm. And she's using a perfume, your late wife's perfume, that contains unknown compounds. Victoria paused. Let the implications settle. I'm not suggesting anything untoward. I'm simply recommending we maintain professional oversight. Tony's eyes narrowed. You think she's drugging them? I think we should verify that she's not. A simple drug screen on the twins, inventory checks on medications, perhaps some discreet observation. Victoria stood, gathered her bag. Gabriel, I've cared for this family for 5 years. I was there when Serena died. I held your hand, through the worst night of your life. Trust me when I say I only want what's best for Bella and Sophia. After she left, Gabriel sat silent for a long moment. Tony waited, reading his boss the way he'd learned to over 15 years of loyal service. She has a point, Gabriel finally said. We ran a background check on Lily, but we're trusting her completely with the twins. Set up additional cameras in the nursery. Review medication logs. I want to know everything Lily does. Boss, you really think? I think Victoria's been with us for 5 years, and Lily's been here 3 weeks. I think Serena trusted Victoria with her life, and my wife is dead anyway. Gabriel's voice went cold. I think I've already lost too much to take chances with what I have left. In her car outside the estate, Victoria allowed herself a small smile. Seeds of doubt, carefully planted. Now she just needed to water them, and watch them grow. She pulled out her second phone, the one no one knew about, and typed a message to a number she'd acquired through less than legal channels. Derek Carter, your wife is living in the Moretti mansion, working as a nanny, earning Gabriel's trust. Thought you'd want to know. She deleted the message thread and drove away, already planning her next move. If Lily wouldn't leave willingly, Victoria would simply have to give her a reason to go. Or better yet, give Gabriel a reason to throw her out. Chapter 4, 3:17 in the morning. Lily had learned to recognize the exact sound of Gabriel's footsteps in the hallway, the slight hesitation before he reached the nursery, as if he was steeling himself to face another night of screaming that never came anymore. She looked up from the rocking chair where she held Sophia, the baby drowsy and content after her feeding. Gabriel stood in the doorway in wrinkled dress pants and an unbuttoned shirt, his hair disheveled in a way that made him look younger, more human. Bella? He asked quietly. Already down. She'll sleep another 3 hours at least. Lily shifted Sophia gently. You don't have to check on them every night. I promise I'll call if anything's wrong. I know. But he came in anyway, moving to Bella's crib, his hand hovering over his daughter's small back, as if reassuring himself she was still breathing. I need to see them. Need to know they're okay. They're more than okay. They're thriving. Gabriel finally looked at her. And in the dim glow of the nightlight, Lily saw the exhaustion that went deeper than lack of sleep. Serena never got to see this, never got to hold them when they weren't crying. She died thinking she'd brought suffering into the world. The words hung in the air between them, raw and unguarded in a way Gabriel Moretti never allowed himself to be. Lily knew she should stay quiet, maintain the professional distance between employer and employee. But something about 3 a.m. made honesty feel inevitable. Tell me about her, she said softly. Gabriel pulled the other rocking chair closer, sat heavily. For a long moment, he just stared at his hands. Hands that had built an empire, that had killed men, that trembled now when he held his daughters. She was good, genuinely good, in a way people like me don't deserve. His voice cracked slightly. She knew what I was, what I did, married me anyway, because she believed I could be better. And I tried, God, I tried for her. Started legitimizing businesses, distancing myself from the worst of it. He looked up, and then she got pregnant, and I thought this was my chance, to be the man she saw in me. But the pregnancy was difficult, complicated from the start. Victoria Drive, Ashford, managed it carefully. Bed rest, medications, constant monitoring. Serena was so scared, but she was also so strong. She made it through, made it all the way to delivery. Gabriel's jaw clenched, and then her heart just gave out. 20 minutes after the twins were born. Victoria did everything she could, but sometimes everything isn't enough, Lily finished. She'd seen it in the ER too many times. The patients who should have survived and didn't. The random cruelty of biology. Sophia had fallen asleep in her arms. Lily stood carefully, laid the baby in her crib, and returned to her chair. The silence stretched, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the silence of two people who understood that some losses couldn't be explained or fixed, only endured. Why did you stop nursing? Gabriel asked suddenly. Your records say you were excellent. Commendations. Fast track to trauma certification. Then you just walked away. Lily's hand found her wrist, tracing the scar she could feel even in the darkness. I lost my ability to save people the night I couldn't save my own son. Derek. The name tasted like poison. He came home drunk. I was 5 months pregnant, and I just told him I wanted a divorce. She stopped, swallowed hard. The doctors at Northwestern tried everything. My colleagues, people I'd worked beside for 3 years, fought to save Michael. And I just laid there, helpless, while my baby died inside me. You blame yourself. I stayed with him too long, ignored the warning signs, believed his promises, that he'd change. Lily's voice hardened. And my son paid the price for my stupidity. Gabriel leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. I've killed men for less than what Derek did to you. Men who made the mistake of threatening what was mine. And I never lost sleep over it. He looked at her directly. But Serena's death haunts me every night. Because I couldn't control it, couldn't fix it, Couldn't make it different no matter how much power or money I had. Guilt isn't logical, Lily said quietly. It doesn't care about what you could or couldn't control. It just eats at you, until you learn to live with the weight. Is that what you're doing? Living with it? I'm trying. Some days are better than others. She glanced at the cribs where both twins slept peacefully. This helps. Knowing I can still do something good. That I can still protect someone, even if I couldn't protect Michael. Gabriel stood, moved to Bella's crib, and gently adjusted the blanket around his daughter. When he spoke again, his voice was softer than Lily had ever heard it. Serena would have liked you. She always said the best people were the ones who'd been broken, and chose to stay kind anyway. He turned back to Lily. Thank you, for loving them, for giving them what I couldn't. You love them, Lily protested. Anyone can see that. Love isn't always enough. Serena taught me that. He moved toward the door, paused with his hand on the frame. Get some sleep, I'll listen for them until morning. After he left, Lily sat in the darkness, listening to the twins breathe in perfect synchronization. She thought about guilt and grief, and the strange way trauma bonded people who'd never have met otherwise. She thought about how Gabriel looked at his daughters, with a desperate tenderness that reminded her of how she'd planned to love Michael. And she thought about Dr. Victoria Ashford's strange questions about medications and dependencies. About the way the doctor's eyes had gone cold when the twins stopped crying in Lily's arms. Something wasn't right. Lily had spent 3 years in the ER learning to recognize when people were lying, when situations were more dangerous than they appeared. She just couldn't figure out yet what Victoria was really afraid of, or what she was willing to do about it. Chapter 5. The parking garage on West Monroe smelled like gasoline and stale urine, the kind of place where security cameras conveniently malfunctioned, and nobody asked questions about late-night meetings. Victoria pulled her Mercedes into the shadowed corner of level 3, killed the engine, and waited. Derek Carter emerged from the stairwell 2 minutes later, moving with the casual arrogance of a man who believed he was owed something by the world. At 32, he still had the build of the college linebacker he'd once been, but prison had added a hardness to his features that made strangers cross the street. Victoria didn't cross the street. She rolled down her window. Get in. Derek slid into the passenger seat, his eyes scanning the empty garage with practiced paranoia. You're the doctor, the one who texted me about Lily. Dr. Victoria Ashford. I've been caring for the Moretti family for 5 years. She kept her voice clinical, detached. Your wife has become a problem. Ex-wife. And yeah, I heard she's playing house with Gabriel Moretti now, nanny to his brat twins. Derek's jaw tightened. She owes Castellano 50 grand. She owes me a hell of a lot more than that. What you're owed and what I need are conveniently aligned. Victoria pulled an envelope from her purse, set it on the console between them. There's $60,000 in there, cash. Untraceable. Derek's eyes widened slightly, but he didn't reach for it. What do I have to do? Nothing yet. Just wait. Victoria's fingers drummed on the steering wheel. Lily has inserted herself into Gabriel's life, into his daughters' lives. She's turning herself into something irreplaceable. But Gabriel is a careful man. Suspicious. If I simply tell him she's dangerous, he'll investigate and find nothing. So you need proof. I need evidence of exactly what I say she is. A desperate woman with medical knowledge who would do anything to secure her position, including drugging 2 infant girls to make herself indispensable. Victoria pulled out her phone, showed him photographs of the mansion's interior, the nursery, the medication cabinet. I have access. I have opportunity. What I need is a scapegoat who makes sense. Derek's smile was ugly. You're going to frame her. I'm going to reveal what she's already doing. Victoria's voice hardened. Those twins sleep because of her. Only her. That's not natural maternal bonding. That's chemical dependency. Gabriel just doesn't know it yet. And when he finds out, he'll throw her out. Violently. Men like Gabriel Moretti don't forgive threats to their children. Victoria finally looked at Derek directly. That's where you come in. When she's expelled from the mansion, when she's alone and vulnerable, and has nowhere left to go, that's when you remind her what happens to women who think they can just walk away. Derek reached for the envelope, thumbed through the bills. 60 grand to wait around and teach my ex-wife a lesson. What's the catch? The catch is that you don't touch her until I give the signal. You don't contact her, don't follow her, don't even breathe in her direction, until Gabriel throws her out. Because if you spook her too early, if she runs before I can execute this properly, the whole thing falls apart. And if I'm patient, Victoria pulled out a second envelope, thicker than the first. There's another 60,000 when it's done, plus whatever satisfaction you get from making Lily understand that she never should have left you. Derek pocketed both envelopes, his expression calculating. You really hate her that much? A girl you barely know? I hate what she represents. The disruption of an order that worked perfectly well before she arrived. Victoria started the engine, a clear dismissal. Gabriel Moretti was grieving, isolated, dependent on the people who'd been loyal to him for years. Now he's starting to heal, starting to trust again. And when men heal, when they open themselves up to new possibilities, they don't need the old guard anymore, Derek finished. He opened the door, paused. When? Soon. Gabriel leaves for New York next week, for a 3-day business trip. That's when I make my move. Victoria's smile was cold. By the time he comes home, Lily will have destroyed everything she built. And you'll be waiting to pick up the pieces. After Derek left, Victoria sat in the darkness of the parking garage, her hands steady on the steering wheel despite the rapid beating of her heart. She'd crossed a line tonight, moved from passive jealousy into active conspiracy. But she'd crossed so many lines already, hadn't she? The slow poisoning of Serena throughout her pregnancy. The careful manipulation of medications that weakened her heart just enough that childbirth became a death sentence. The 5 years of positioning herself as Gabriel's trusted confidant, waiting for the moment when grief would turn into something else, something she could claim. And then Lily arrived, with her tragic past and her impossible gift for calming the twins, and Gabriel looked at her the way he'd never looked at Victoria. With possibility, with the beginning of something that could become love, Victoria pulled out of the garage and drove through the empty Chicago streets, already planning the details. The sedative she'd use, powerful enough to hospitalize Bella but not kill her. The placement of evidence in Lily's room. The timing of her discovery, when Gabriel returned from New York. She'd been patient for 5 years. She could be patient for 1 more week. And then Lily Carter would learn what happened to women who tried to steal what belonged to Victoria Ashford. Chapter 6. Gabriel's jet touched down in San Francisco at 11 p.m. Tuesday. He texted Tony immediately. "How are the girls?" The response came back within seconds. "Perfect. Both sleeping. Lily's got everything under control." Gabriel pocketed his phone, trying to ignore the guilt that came with being 3,000 miles away from his daughters. 3 days. He'd be back Friday afternoon. The New York meetings. He'd changed the location at the last minute. Couldn't wait, and Lily had promised she could handle it. He trusted her. That was the terrifying part. After only 6 weeks, he trusted her completely. Back in Chicago, Victoria slipped through the mansion's service entrance at 2:47 a.m., her medical bag heavy with more than the usual supplies. Harold was asleep. She'd checked his quarters. Tony was doing perimeter rounds. Lily would be in her room on the 3rd floor, exhausted from another day of caring for 2 4-month-olds. The nursery was dark except for the soft glow of the nightlight. Both twins slept peacefully in their cribs, their small chests rising and falling in perfect rhythm. Victoria stood over Bella's crib for a long moment, her hand hovering over the baby's face. She'd delivered these children, had held them seconds after they took their first breaths, had whispered to them that everything would be okay even as their mother bled out on the delivery table. "I'm sorry," she whispered to Bella, "but you'll be fine. Just sick enough to scare your father. Just sick enough to make him see the truth." She pulled the syringe from her bag, midazolam, carefully measured. A pediatric dose would cause drowsiness. An adult dose would cause respiratory depression, hospitalization, the kind of crisis that demanded answers. Victoria administered the injection into Bella's thigh through her onesie, quick and practiced. The baby stirred slightly but didn't wake. Within minutes, her breathing would begin to shallow. Within 20 minutes, she'd be in distress. Victoria moved quickly to Lily's quarters, picked the simple lock with tools she'd acquired specifically for this purpose. The room was small, spare, a bed, a dresser, a bookshelf filled with nursing textbooks Lily probably thought she'd never use again. Victoria planted the medication bottle in the back of the underwear drawer, obvious enough to be found but hidden enough to seem like Lily had been trying to conceal it. She was back in her car, 3 blocks away, when her phone rang. Harold, his voice shaking. "Dr. Ashford, something's wrong with Bella. She's breathing strangely, won't wake up properly. Lily's hysterical. We need you here now." "I'm 10 minutes away," Victoria lied smoothly. "Call an ambulance. And Harold, don't let anyone give her anything. Don't let anyone move her. This could be serious." She disconnected, allowed herself a small smile, and drove back to the mansion at exactly the speed that would make her arrival seem urgent, but not suspicious. The ambulance beat her there. Victoria arrived to chaos. EMTs loading Bella onto a stretcher, Lily sobbing as she tried to explain what happened. Harold, barking orders at staff while simultaneously trying to call Gabriel, Sophia screaming in Tony's awkward arms. "What happened?" Victoria demanded, pushing through to the paramedics. 4-month-old female, respiratory depression, unresponsive to stimuli. "We're thinking overdose, or poisoning." The lead EMT continued working as he spoke. "Any medications in the house? Any chance she got into something?" "I need to check." Victoria turned to Harold. "The medication cabinet in the nursery. Is it locked?" "Always. Lily has the only key besides Mr. Moretti." "Then we need to check her room, now." Victoria's voice carried just the right note of professional urgency, mixed with dawning horror. If this is what I think it is. Tony was already moving, Harold following. They found the bottle exactly where Victoria had planted it. Midazolam. Adult strength. Enough to kill a child Bella's size. Harold's face went gray. No, Lily wouldn't. We need to tell the hospital. Tony's voice was ice. And we need to call the boss. At Northwestern Memorial, they pumped Bella's stomach and stabilized her breathing. The toxicology report came back within hours. Midazolam in her system, levels consistent with intentional administration. The attending physician's face was grim as he spoke to Victoria in the hallway. This wasn't accidental. Someone gave this child an adult dose of a controlled sedative. We've already notified Child Protective Services and the police. Victoria nodded, her expression perfectly calibrated to show shock and grief. The nanny has nursing training. And we found the medication in her room. I can't believe. I've known this family for 5 years. I delivered these babies. How could she? Inside Bella's hospital room, Lily held Sophia and stared at Bella's small body hooked up to monitors, tubes, machines designed to save what she'd supposedly tried to destroy. She couldn't stop shaking. Couldn't process what Harold and Tony had told her about what they'd found in her room. I didn't, she kept whispering. I would never hurt them. Please, you have to believe me. But she could see it in their eyes. The doubt, the terrible mathematics of evidence, plus opportunity, plus her nursing background equaling guilt. Harold at least looked conflicted. Tony just looked ready to kill her. Gabriel's plane landed at O'Hare at 6:23 a.m., 3 hours after Tony's emergency call. He'd chartered a private jet the moment he heard, had spent the flight reviewing security footage on his tablet, had watched Lily go in and out of the nursery a dozen times in the hours before Bella stopped breathing. He'd watched Victoria arrive at the mansion at 3:15 a.m., 11 minutes before Harold discovered Bella in distress. He'd watched the footage of Lily's room being searched, the medication being found. He'd watched it all, and his mind kept circling back to one thought. Serena had trusted Victoria with her life. Lily had been with them 6 weeks. He walked into the hospital room like a storm about to break. Lily stood immediately, still holding Sophia, her face streaked with tears. Gabriel, I swear to God I didn't. Don't. His voice cut through the room like a knife. Don't say another word. Please, you have to listen. Gabriel crossed the distance between them in 3 strides, his face contorted with rage and grief. My daughter is lying in a hospital bed with drugs in her system. Drugs we found in your room. You have medical training. You have access. You have motive. What motive? Lily's voice broke. I love them. I would die for them. Why would I? Because you're desperate, Victoria said quietly from the doorway. She'd been waiting for this moment. Because you owe money to dangerous people. Because you saw an opportunity to make yourself indispensable to one of the most powerful men in Chicago. And when the natural bonding with the twins wasn't enough, you decided to ensure they needed you chemically. That's insane. Lily turned to Gabriel, her eyes pleading. You know me. We talk every night. You know I would never. I know you've been here 6 weeks. I know my daughter nearly died. I know the evidence. Gabriel's hands clenched into fists at his sides. I know I trusted you with the most precious things in my life, and you. He couldn't finish. The rage was too big, the betrayal too complete. Lily fell to her knees, still holding Sophia, her voice raw with desperation. I swear on Michael's soul, on my son's grave, I didn't do this. Gabriel, please, please believe me. I wouldn't. I couldn't. Not after losing my own baby. But Gabriel was already turning away. Tony, get her out of here, now. Ban her from the hospital, from the mansion, from anywhere near my family. If I ever see her again. He didn't finish the threat. He didn't need to. Tony pulled Lily roughly to her feet, pried Sophia from her arms, despite the baby's sudden wails. Lily was sobbing, trying to explain, trying to make Gabriel look at her, but he kept his back turned, his shoulders rigid. Harold stood frozen, his weathered face stricken. Sir, maybe we should. Harold. Gabriel's voice was deadly quiet. Get her out, now. Before I do something we'll all regret. They dragged Lily through the hospital corridors, past nurses who averted their eyes, past security guards who'd been quietly alerted. They pushed her out into the gray Chicago dawn, into the rain that had started falling while she'd been inside watching her life disintegrate. Tony stood in the hospital entrance, blocking her from coming back in. You ever come near this family again? You ever try to contact Mr. Moretti or those girls, and you won't live long enough to regret it. Understand? Lily nodded, still crying, her body shaking so hard she could barely stand. Tony went back inside, the automatic doors closed, and Lily stood in the rain, listening to Sophia's screams echo from somewhere inside the hospital, and finally understood what it meant to lose everything twice. Chapter 7. Derek got the text at 8:47 a.m. She's out. Do what you want. He'd been waiting in his car outside the hospital for 3 hours, chain-smoking Marlboros and watching the entrance. When he saw Tony drag Lily out into the rain and leave her there, soaked, sobbing, destroyed, he smiled. But he didn't approach. Not yet. He followed her instead, watched her stumble through the streets like a ghost, watched her use the last of her cash at an ATM, watched her check into the Sunset Motel on Cicero Avenue, the kind of place that rented by the hour and didn't ask for ID if you paid cash up front. Derek waited until midnight, gave her time to think she was safe, to let her guard down, to believe maybe she could survive this. Then he kicked in the door of room 237. Lily screamed, scrambled off the bed, her hand reaching for her phone. Derek was faster. He grabbed her wrist, the same wrist he'd broken 18 months ago, and twisted until he heard her gasp in pain. Did you really think you could disappear into Moretti's mansion and I wouldn't find you? His breath smelled like whiskey and rage. Did you think you could just walk away from me, from what you owe? Derek, please. Lily tried to pull free, but he was so much stronger, had always been stronger. I don't have anything. Gabriel kicked me out. I don't have money, I don't have. You have $50,000 of Castellano's money somewhere. You have information about Moretti's operation that people would pay for, and you have a debt to me. Derek's fist connected with her stomach, driving the air from her lungs. A debt for leaving me, for making me look weak, for thinking you were better than me. Lily doubled over, couldn't breathe, tasted copper. I lost our baby. You lost a mistake, a burden. Derek hit her again, this time across the face. Her cheekbone cracked. You were supposed to be mine. My wife. And you took that, and threw it away, like it meant nothing. He dragged her out of the motel room, and into the alley behind the building. No cameras here. No witnesses. Just dumpsters, and broken bottles, and the smell of decay. The beating was methodical. Derek had learned patience in prison, learned how to make pain last. He broke 3 of her ribs with precise kicks, shattered her left wrist again, same place as before because he remembered how she'd cried then, wanted to hear it again. Split her lip so badly she choked on her own blood. You're nothing, he said, kneeling beside her broken body in the filth of the alley. You were nothing when I found you, you're nothing now. Moretti saw it. Everyone sees it. You're just a broken thing that nobody wants. Lily couldn't speak anymore, could barely breathe. Her vision was going dark at the edges, her body shutting down from trauma and shock. She thought of Michael, of the son she'd never held. She thought of Bella and Sophia, of the way they'd smiled at her this morning before everything ended. She thought of Gabriel's face, twisted with rage and betrayal. Maybe Derek was right. Maybe she was nothing. Derek stood, wiped the blood from his hands on his jeans. Castellano still wants his money. You've got 48 hours to figure out where it is, or I come back and finish this. He kicked her one more time, just because he could. Welcome home, Lily. He left her there in the alley, broken and bleeding, rain starting to fall again and mixing with the blood pooling beneath her head. Lily lay in the darkness, each breath agony, and thought, this is how it ends. This is how I die. Alone in an alley, with everyone thinking I'm a monster. She thought of the twins' faces. She thought of Gabriel's midnight confessions. She thought of Harold's kindness, and the way Tony had almost looked sorry when he threw her out. She thought of Victoria's cold smile in the hospital room. And through the pain and the dying, something crystallized. Something sharp and clear and furious. Victoria. Victoria had been in the mansion that night. Had arrived just before Bella was discovered. Had been the one to suggest searching Lily's room. Had orchestrated everything with the precision of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Lily tried to reach for her phone, but her broken wrist wouldn't cooperate. Tried to call for help, but her shattered ribs made every breath a scream. The darkness was closing in, pulling her under, and she was so tired of fighting. But not yet, not quite yet. She thought of Michael, of the promise she'd made to his memory, that she'd live, that she'd do something good with the life he didn't get to have. She thought of Bella and Sophia, sleeping peacefully because Lily had loved them. She couldn't die here, not when Victoria was still in that mansion, still close to those girls, still capable of hurting them again. Lily dragged herself inch by agonizing inch toward the street, leaving a trail of blood behind her. Her vision tunneled, her heartbeat stuttered, but she kept moving, kept fighting, because dying angry was better than dying broken. A car's headlights swept across the alley entrance. Someone screamed. Footsteps ran toward her. Oh my God, call 911. Someone call. The voice faded, the darkness won. But Lily's last conscious thought was crystal clear. Harold. I need to tell Harold. He'll know. He documents everything. He'll see the truth. Then nothing. Chapter 8. Gabriel returned to the mansion at noon on Friday. His daughters finally home from the hospital. Bella was stable. The doctors said she'd make a full recovery, but the silence in the house felt wrong. No humming from the nursery. No soft laughter, as Lily talked to the twins during feeding time. Just the clinical efficiency of the new nurse Victoria had recommended, a stern woman in her 50s, who handled the babies like medical equipment. Both girls were crying again. Not the 4 months screaming they'd finally escaped, but a new sound. Grief, confusion, the particular distress of infants who didn't understand where their person had gone. Harold found Gabriel in his study at 3 a.m. Saturday, staring at security footage on his laptop. The butler knocked softly, even though the door was open. "Sir, you should sleep." "I can't." Gabriel didn't look up. "Something's wrong, Harold. I can feel it, sir." She swore on her dead son's soul. "Did you see her face when she said that?" Gabriel finally looked up, and Harold saw the same haunted expression that had been there after Serena died. "What if I'm wrong?" Harold had been waiting for this. Had been holding his tongue for 63 hours, while watching his employer destroy an innocent woman's life. He pulled a leather journal from his jacket, the one he'd been keeping since the twins were born, the one where he documented everything. "Sir, I've been reviewing the timeline. May I show you something?" Gabriel gestured to the chair. Harold sat, opened the journal to pages marked with sticky notes. Dr. Ashford arrived at the mansion at 3:15 a.m. the night Bella was poisoned. She called me at 3:26 to report Bella's distress, 11 minutes after her arrival. But I discovered Bella's breathing difficulties at 3:23. The ambulance dispatch record shows I called 911 at 3:24. Gabriel leaned forward. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Dr. Ashford called me 3 minutes after I'd already called 911. She claimed she was 10 minutes away when I called her. But the security footage shows her arriving just 2 minutes after we spoke. She was already here, sir. Or very close." "That's..." Gabriel stopped. "That could be explained. Maybe she was in the neighborhood. At 3 a.m. on a Wednesday?" Harold flipped pages. "Here's something else. I inventoried the medication cabinet the next day. The bottle of midazolam we found in Miss Carter's room came from the cabinet. I matched the batch numbers. But that cabinet requires a code to open. Only 3 people have that code. You, me, and Dr. Ashford. Lily could have." "Sir." Harold's voice was gentle, but firm. "Miss Carter is terrified of locked spaces. Claustrophobia from her time with Derek. She told me once when I found her sleeping with her bedroom door open. She would never have learned the code to that cabinet. She always asked me, or Dr. Ashford, to get medications when the twins needed them." Gabriel sat back, his mind racing. Victoria had access. Victoria was already here. Victoria suggested searching Lily's room. "And Victoria has been in love with you for 5 years, sir. Anyone with eyes could see it." The words hung in the air like an accusation. Gabriel thought back. Victoria's lingering touches, the way she'd stayed close after Serena died, the odd tension when Lily started working here. He dismissed it as professional concern. Hadn't he? "Get Tony," Gabriel said quietly. "Tell him to pull every piece of security footage from that night. Every camera, every angle. And get me Victoria's complete access logs, every time she's been in this house for the last 6 months." "Already done, sir." Harold pulled out a tablet. "I had Tony start the review yesterday. He found something." The video showed the mansion's service entrance at 2:47 a.m. Victoria's Mercedes pulling into the shadows. Victoria entering through the door she shouldn't have had a key to. Victoria moving through the house with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where the cameras were, except she'd missed one. The new camera Tony had installed in the nursery hallway after Lily started working. The footage showed Victoria entering the nursery at 2:51 a.m., staying for 6 minutes, leaving at 2:57. Then moving to the 3rd floor, to Lily's quarters. Gabriel watched in silence, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair hard enough to make the leather creak. "There's more," Tony said, appearing in the doorway. "I pulled Victoria's phone records. She's been texting someone from a burner phone. The number traces to Derek Carter." The room went very cold. "Show me," Gabriel said. Tony pulled up the text history on his laptop. Days of messages between Victoria and Derek. Planning. Coordination. And then, the morning Lily was expelled. "She's out. Do what you want." Gabriel stood so abruptly, his chair crashed backward. "Where's Lily now?" "We don't know, boss. She disappeared after we..." Tony stopped. "After I threw her out. Find her, now. Use every resource we have. Check hospitals, shelters, motels. Find her." "Boss, if Derek got that text, then we're already too late." Gabriel's voice cracked. "But find her anyway. And someone get Victoria Ashford on the phone. Tell her I need to see her immediately. Family emergency." Harold cleared his throat. "Sir, there's one more thing." I've been reviewing medical records from Miss Serena's pregnancy. Dr. Ashford prescribed several medications that seem unusual. High doses of supplements that could mask other substances. And Miss Serena's symptoms, the fatigue, the weakness, the heart complications, they're consistent with certain types of poisoning. The implication detonated in the room like a bomb. Gabriel's voice, when he finally spoke, was barely human. Are you telling me Victoria killed my wife? I'm telling you someone with medical knowledge systematically weakened Miss Serena throughout her pregnancy. Someone who would benefit from her death. Someone who was in the delivery room when she died, and could have administered a final fatal dose of something that would look like natural complications. Gabriel's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered on speaker. Mr. Moretti? A woman's voice, shaking. This is Nurse Patterson from Cook County Hospital. We have a Jane Doe here. Came in last night, barely alive. She's been asking for Harold. Says she works for you. Says someone needs to know the truth about. A pause. About Dr. Ashford. Gabriel was already moving. Don't let her out of your sight. I'm on my way. Cook County Hospital, 4:17 a.m. Gabriel walked into the ICU room and stopped dead. Lily lay in the hospital bed, so broken she was barely recognizable. Her face was swollen beyond recognition, one eye completely shut. Her left arm was in a cast. Tubes and monitors tracked her labored breathing, her unstable vitals. The nurse had said she'd been beaten nearly to death, left in an alley to die. Harold stood at the bedside, tears streaming down his weathered face. She dragged herself to the street, sir, with 3 broken ribs and a shattered wrist. Dragged herself because she needed to warn us about Dr. Ashford. Gabriel approached slowly, as if Lily might shatter further if he moved too fast. Her one good eye tracked him, and he saw no anger there, just exhaustion, just pain. Lily. His voice broke on her name. God, what have I done? She tried to speak, but her split lip made it agony. Harold handed her a notepad and pen. With her good hand, she wrote shakily, Victoria. She killed Serena. She'll hurt the girls. Stop her. Gabriel took the notepad with shaking hands. I know. I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have. Lily wrote again. The twins. Crying. They won't stop crying. They want you. Gabriel knelt beside the bed, something he'd never done for anyone. I failed you. I failed Serena. I failed my daughters. And I will spend the rest of my life making this right if you'll let me. But first. His jaw tightened. First I need to deal with Victoria. Lily's eye closed. She wrote one more thing. Don't kill her. She needs to confess. For Serena. Gabriel stood, turned to Tony. Get a team to watch this room. Armed. No one gets in or out without my authorization. And get the best doctors in Chicago here. Whatever she needs. Whatever it costs. He looked back at Lily, at this woman he'd trusted, then betrayed, then destroyed. I'm going to fix this. All of it. I promise. Then he walked out to destroy the woman who'd murdered his wife, and almost killed the person his daughters loved most in the world. Chapter 9. Victoria arrived at the mansion at 6 a.m., her medical bag in hand, concern etched perfectly across her features. Harold had called with just the right note of panic in his voice. Bella was having complications. They needed her immediately. Mr. Moretti was beside himself. She walked into the study to find Gabriel standing by the window, his back to her. Tony stood by the door. Harold sat in the corner, his journal open on his lap. Gabriel, thank God. How is Bella? Harold said. Sit down, Victoria. Something in his voice made her hesitate. I really should examine her first. Sit down. Victoria sat, her heart beginning to race. She'd been careful. She'd planned everything perfectly. There was no way. Gabriel turned, and Victoria's breath caught. She'd seen him angry before, had watched him order men's deaths with less emotion than most people used to order coffee. But this was different. This was cold, controlled, lethal. Tell me about the night Bella was poisoned. I already gave my statement. Lily had access. Lily had the medication in her room. You arrived at 3:15 a.m. 11 minutes before Harold discovered Bella in distress. Gabriel pulled out his tablet, turned it to face her. This is security footage from the service entrance. That's you, entering at 2:47. That's you, going into the nursery at 2:51. That's you, coming out 6 minutes later. Victoria's face went pale. I came to check on them. I couldn't sleep. I was worried. Worried? Gabriel's voice was flat. So worried that you entered through the service entrance using a key you shouldn't have? So worried that you went straight to Lily's room after leaving the nursery? What were you checking on there, Victoria? Her underwear drawer? This is ridiculous. I've served this family for 5 years. Tony stepped forward, his phone in hand. These are your text messages with Derek Carter. The burner phone you thought was untraceable. The one where you coordinated Lily's destruction. The one where you sent him the green light to beat her nearly to death. He scrolled through messages, reading them aloud. Each word was a nail in Victoria's coffin. Your wife is living in the Moretti mansion. She's making herself indispensable. When Gabriel throws her out, that's when you remind her what happens to women who think they can walk away. She's out. Do what you want. Victoria's composure cracked. You don't understand. I did this for you. For us. That girl was manipulating you, making you dependent on her, turning your daughters against. Against what? Against the woman who actually loved them. Against the person who gave them peace for the first time in their lives. Gabriel's control was slipping, rage bleeding through. You poisoned my daughter to frame an innocent woman because you were jealous. I saved your daughter. I made sure the dose was carefully calibrated, that she'd be sick but not. You admitted it. Harold's voice cut through the room, quiet but clear. He held up a small recording device. Dr. Ashford, you just confessed to poisoning Bella Moretti. Victoria lunged for the device, but Tony was faster. He caught her arm, twisted it behind her back, forced her back into the chair. You're insane, she spat. All of you. I've given 5 years of my life to this family. I delivered those babies. I held your hand when Serena died. I was there for everything. You were there, Gabriel agreed, his voice deadly soft. You were there throughout Serena's pregnancy, prescribing medications that weakened her. You were there in the delivery room, when her heart gave out. You were there every step of the way. Harold opened his journal, began reading from pages marked with sticky notes. Serena's symptoms during pregnancy: extreme fatigue, muscle weakness, heart palpitations, unexplained nausea. I researched these symptoms, Dr. Ashford. They're consistent with chronic low-level poisoning, specifically, with the class of medications you prescribed her at elevated doses. That's absurd. Serena had a complicated pregnancy. I managed it to the best of my ability. You killed her. Gabriel's words fell like stones into still water. You slowly poisoned my wife for 9 months, weakened her heart so that childbirth would finish what you started. You murdered Serena's so you could have me. No. Victoria's composure shattered completely. I loved her. I tried to save her. But she was weak, Gabriel. Her body couldn't handle the pregnancy. I did everything I could. Show her the pharmacy records, Tony said quietly. Harold pulled out documents, spread them across the desk. These are prescription records from 3 different pharmacies, Dr. Ashford. All filled under fake patient names. All traced back to your medical license. All for the same medications you prescribed Serena, but at much higher doses than what appeared in her official medical charts. Victoria stared at the evidence, her face crumbling. You don't understand. I waited 5 years for you to see me, to realize that I was the one who understood you, who could handle your world. But you only saw Serena. Sweet innocent Serena, who knew nothing about your business, who made you weak. She made me human. Gabriel's voice cracked. She made me want to be better. And then she died. And you grieved. And I waited more. I comforted you. I cared for your daughters. I was there every single day, being what you needed. Victoria's eyes blazed with madness and heartbreak. And then that broken little nurse walks in and you look at her the way you looked at Serena. Like she's special. Like she's worth saving. When I'm the one who's been here all along. So you decided to destroy her. I decided to show you the truth. That she was using those babies, drugging them, making herself necessary through chemistry instead of real love. You're describing yourself. Harold's voice was gentle, but merciless. You're the one who drugged an infant. You're the one who manipulated and schemed. You're the one who killed a mother, and tried to frame an innocent woman for poisoning her child. Victoria stood abruptly, her chair crashing backward. Tony's hand went to his gun, but Gabriel raised a hand to stop him. 5 years, Gabriel. 5 years I've loved you. Waited for you. Done everything for you. Victoria's voice rose to a scream. And you believed that nobody over me. You trusted some domestic abuse victim with a dead baby over the woman who delivered your daughters. Because that nobody loves my daughters more than you ever could. Because Lily would die for them. And you tried to kill one of them to serve your own obsession. Gabriel stepped closer, his voice dropping to something more dangerous than shouting. Where's Derek now? Victoria's laugh was unhinged, probably celebrating. I paid him well to remind Lily of her place. To show her what happens when girls like her try to climb above their station. Gabriel's fist connected with the wall beside her head, the impact cratering the plaster. Victoria flinched, finally understanding the violence she'd unleashed. Tony, call the police, call our lawyers, and call Frank Castellano. Tell him Derek Carter violated the terms of his employment by attacking someone under my protection. Tell him I'm collecting the debt personally. Gabriel, please. Victoria reached for him, but he stepped back as if she were diseased. You don't get to say my name. You don't get to touch me. You don't get to breathe the same air as my daughters ever again. His voice was final. You're going to confess. Everything. Serena's murder, Bella's poisoning, conspiracy with Derek, all of it. You're gonna do it on camera, with lawyers present, and you're gonna do it because if you don't—" He leaned close, his voice dropping to a whisper. "If you don't, I'll make sure your death takes exactly as long as Serena's did. 9 months of slow, careful suffering. And unlike you, I won't make a single mistake." Victoria collapsed into the chair, sobbing. "I loved you. I only ever loved you. You loved the idea of me. You loved what I represented. You never loved me at all." Gabriel turned to Harold. "Get her out of my sight. The police are waiting outside." As Tony and Harold escorted Victoria from the study, she turned back one last time. "That girl will never be what Serena was. She's broken. Used. Worthless. She's worth 100 of you," Gabriel said quietly. "And she's the only reason those babies have known peace. The only reason I'm letting you live long enough to face justice, instead of dying in this room right now." The door closed. Victoria's screams echoed down the hallway as the police took her into custody. Gabriel stood alone in his study, surrounded by the evidence of his catastrophic failure of judgment. He'd trusted the wrong person, believed the wrong story, nearly gotten Lily killed, and left his daughters in the care of their mother's murderer. His phone buzzed. A text from the hospital. "Patient Chen is awake. Asking about the twins." Gabriel looked at the security footage still frozen on his screen. Lily holding both babies, all 3 of them peaceful and whole, before Victoria's poison destroyed everything. He had one chance to make this right. One chance to earn back the trust he'd shattered. And he would spend the rest of his life proving he deserved it. Chapter 10. Gabriel walked into Cook County Hospital at 8:47 a.m., his suit rumpled from not sleeping, his hands still shaking with adrenaline and rage from Victoria's confession. The ICU nurse tried to brief him on Lily's condition, but he barely heard the words. Critical but stable. Multiple fractures. Internal bleeding they'd managed to stop. Lucky to be alive. Lucky. He stopped outside room 347, his hand on the door, and for the first time in his adult life, Gabriel Moretti was afraid. Not of enemies or bullets or the 1,000 ways his world could end, but of facing the woman whose life he'd destroyed because he'd been too blind, too quick to judge, too willing to believe the worst. Harold appeared beside him, placed a weathered hand on his shoulder. "She's stronger than she looks, sir. She survived Derek once. She'll survive this. She shouldn't have to survive it at all." Gabriel's voice was raw. "I did this to her. I looked her in the eye when she was begging me to believe her, and I threw her away like trash. Then you go in there and you own it. No justifications. No excuses. You kneel if you have to, sir. You do whatever it takes." Gabriel pushed open the door. The morning light filtered through the blinds, casting bars of shadow across the hospital bed. Lily lay propped up slightly, her face still swollen and discolored, her left arm in a fresh cast, monitors tracking her fragile vitals. Her one good eye tracked him as he entered, and he saw no anger there. Just exhaustion so profound, it made her look decades older. He'd seen men die with more life in their eyes. "Lily." His voice cracked on her name. He approached slowly, as if she might vanish if he moved too quickly. She raised her good hand slightly. "Stop." Reached for the notepad on the bedside table. Harold had said her jaw was wired shut, that speaking caused her agony. She wrote slowly, her handwriting shaky but legible. "The twins. Are they safe? Even now? Even broken and dying?" Her first thought was for his daughters. They're home. New nurse. Armed security. Victoria's in custody. Gabriel pulled the visitor's chair closer, but couldn't bring himself to sit. Couldn't bring himself to be comfortable when she was lying there, because of him. She confessed. Everything. Serena's murder, Bella's poisoning, coordinating with Derek, all of it. Lily's eye closed briefly. When she opened it again, she wrote, "I told you." Swore on Michael's soul. The words were a knife to his chest. I know you did. And I." Gabriel's composure, the iron control he'd maintained for 20 years of running a criminal empire, shattered completely. "God, Lily, I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry." He dropped to his knees beside the hospital bed. Gabriel Moretti, who'd killed men with his bare hands, who'd built an empire on fear and respect, who knelt for no one, and let the tears come. "You begged me to believe you. You fell to your knees and swore on your dead son's soul, and I kicked you away. I had Tony throw you out like you were nothing. Like you meant nothing." His voice broke into sobs. "And because of me, because I was too stupid and too blind and too fucking angry to see the truth, Derek found you. He nearly killed you, and you almost died thinking everyone believed you were a monster." Lily's good hand moved, trembling, to touch his head. "Just barely. Just enough." Gabriel looked up, his face wet with tears, and saw something impossible in her damaged face. Not forgiveness. He didn't deserve forgiveness, but something softer. Understanding, maybe. The recognition of one broken person seeing another. She wrote again slowly, "You loved Serena. Victoria was there when she died. You trusted her for 5 years. I was there 6 weeks. That's not an excuse. That's not even close to." Lily underlined what she'd written, pointed to it insistently. Then wrote more, "You made a mistake. You're human. But you found the truth. You believed me when it mattered. It should have mattered from the start. It matters now." Gabriel pressed his forehead against the bedrail, his shoulders shaking. "I will spend the rest of my life making this right. Whatever you need. Medical care, security, money, a new life far away from me and this nightmare, it's yours. All of it. No strings, no conditions. Just," he looked up at her again. "Just please, don't die thinking you're alone. Don't die thinking my daughters didn't love you. Because they do. They're crying for you, every hour. They know you're gone, and they don't understand why." Lily's eye filled with tears. She wrote, "I want to see them." "You will. As soon as the doctors clear you. As soon as it's safe." Gabriel stood slowly, every muscle in his body heavy with exhaustion and shame. "But first, you need to heal. And I need to." He paused. "Derek's dead. Tony found him 3 hours ago. Castellanos' people handled it. When they learned he'd violated terms by attacking you without authorization, it was quick, cleaner than he deserved." Lily nodded once. No grief there. Just closure. Gabriel pulled out his phone, showed her a video. The twins in their nursery, both crying, both reaching for the door as if they could will Lily back through it. "They need you. I need you. Not as a nurse, or a nanny, or an employee." He met her eyes. "I need you to come home, to be part of this family, for real. No more hiding in the servants' quarters. No more pretending you're just the help." Lily stared at him for a long moment, then wrote, "You hurt me. Worse than Derek in some ways. Because I trusted you. I know. I can forgive. But I need time. Need to heal. Need to know you won't break me again. I won't. I swear on my daughters' lives, on Serena's memory, I will never doubt you again. I will never throw you away again. You are." Gabriel's voice caught. "Your family. And I protect family. Even from myself." Lily wrote one more thing. "Tell the girls I love them. Tell them Mama's coming home." Gabriel's breath hitched. "Mama." A small smile, painful, but real, crossed Lily's damaged face. She pointed to the word she'd written. "Mama." He leaned down carefully, pressed his lips to her forehead, the only part of her face that didn't look broken. "I'll bring them tomorrow, if the doctors allow it. They can see you're alive, that you're healing, that you didn't abandon them." And Victoria, facing charges for murder, attempted murder, conspiracy, assault through an intermediary. The DA says 25 to life, minimum. Gabriel's expression hardened. "She'll never touch you or my daughters again. I promise you that." A nurse appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Moretti, we need to check her vitals and change her dressings. It might be better if—" "I'll be right outside." Gabriel squeezed Lily's good hand gently. "Rest. Heal. Let yourself be taken care of for once." As he turned to leave, Lily grabbed his sleeve weakly. When he looked back, she'd written one more message. "Thank you for believing me. Even if it was late, it still mattered." Gabriel nodded, not trusting himself to speak, and walked out. In the hallway, Tony and Harold waited. Both men looked at their boss, at the tear track still visible on his face, at the way his shoulders had lost some of their rigid control, and said nothing. "Get me the best trauma specialists in the country," Gabriel said quietly. "Plastic surgeons, physical therapists, psychiatrists, whatever she needs to heal completely. Money is no object. Already on it, boss." Tony pulled out his phone. "Also, the house where Lily and Derek lived, the one where she lost the baby. I bought it this morning. Thought maybe she'd want to burn it down or something. Closure." Gabriel looked at his head of security, something like gratitude warming the cold place in his chest. "Good thinking." Harold cleared his throat. "Sir, the twins' birthday is in 3 weeks. Miss Sophia and Miss Bella will be 5 months old. I was thinking, perhaps a small celebration. When Miss Carter is well enough, to show her she's truly part of the family." "No." Gabriel shook his head. "Not small. Big. Every person who matters to this family. Make it clear that Lily Chen is under my protection, that she's the twins' mother in every way that counts, that anyone who threatens her threatens me." He looked back at the closed hospital room door, thinking of the woman inside who'd survived Derek's fists, his own betrayal, and nearly dying alone in an alley. All because she dared to love his daughters. "She called herself Mama," he said softly. The twins' first word is going to be her name. I'll make sure of it. Harold smiled. The first real smile Gabriel had seen from his butler in months. Miss Serena would have liked that, sir. She would have wanted the girls to have someone who loved them this fiercely. Gabriel nodded, his throat too tight to respond. Serena would have liked Lily. Would have recognized in her the same stubborn refusal to let trauma win, the same capacity for love, despite everything the world had done to break it. And maybe, just maybe, healing from Victoria's poison would mean honoring what Serena had wanted most, for their daughters to be loved and protected, no matter what. Even if the person doing the protecting was a woman Gabriel had nearly destroyed in his grief and rage. He would spend the rest of his life proving he deserved a second chance, starting now. Chapter 11. The safe house sat in the hills overlooking Pasadena, a modest 3-bedroom with bulletproof windows and 2 of Dante's most trusted men stationed outside 24 hours a day. Maya spent the first week barely able to move, her ribs wrapped tight, her left arm in a cast, her face a canvas of purple and yellow bruises that made her unrecognizable even to herself. Dante came every day. He sat in the chair by her bed and told her about the twins, his voice rough with exhaustion. Luna wouldn't take her bottle anymore. Aurora screamed whenever anyone tried to put her down for sleep. They'd both regressed, losing the progress they'd made over the past months. The new nanny had quit after 3 days. "They're asking for you," Dante said on the 8th day, his hands clenched on his knees. "They don't say your name yet, but they point to the door and cry. They know you're gone." Maya stared out the window at the Los Angeles skyline shimmering in the heat. "You threw me away like garbage, Dante. You didn't even give me a chance to explain." "I know." His voice cracked. "I know what I did. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right, if you'll let me." She turned to face him, and the rawness in his eyes almost undid her. "Almost. I need time. I need to figure out if I can trust you again. If I can trust anyone." He nodded, and left without another word. The days bled into weeks. Maya's body healed faster than her heart. She started physical therapy, relearning how to use her arm, working through the pain that lived in her bones now. At night, she dreamed of the twins, their small hands reaching for her, their cries echoing through empty hallways. On a Sunday morning, 6 weeks after the attack, James came to visit. He showed her photos on his phone. Luna and Aurora, thinner now, their eyes lacking the light they'd had before. "They need you," he said simply. "And I think maybe you need them too." Maya stared at the photos for a long time. She thought about forgiveness, about second chances, about the fact that love sometimes meant being brave enough to walk back into the place that broke you. "Take me to them," she whispered. James smiled and pulled out his keys. Chapter 12. The private stretch of Malibu Beach was empty except for a white canopy fluttering in the ocean breeze, a blanket spread across the sand, and the small family gathered beneath the golden afternoon sun. Luna and Aurora, wobbly on their 1-year-old legs, chased each other in circles while Maya watched with her heart so full it ached. 6 months had passed since she'd returned to the compound. 6 months of slowly rebuilding trust, of late-night conversations that lasted until dawn, of watching Dante transform from a man who ruled through fear into a father who got down on his knees to play with toy trucks. The twins had blossomed, healthy, laughing, calling her mama, with voices that still made her cry every single time. "They're going to faceplant in about 30 seconds, Dante said, moving closer to Maya as Aurora stumbled toward the water's edge. He caught his daughter just before she hit the sand, lifting her high as she squealed with delight. Maya laughed, the sound carrying over the crash of waves. She'd forgotten what genuine happiness felt like, forgotten that life could be something other than survival. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, Dante set Aurora down and turned to Maya. His hands were shaking slightly, something she'd never seen before. "I need to ask you something." Luna toddled over and grabbed Maya's leg, demanding to be picked up. Maya lifted her, settling the little girl on her hip as she looked at Dante with curious eyes. He dropped to one knee in the sand. Maya's breath caught in her throat. "Dante, let me say this before I lose my nerve." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. 6 months ago, I was the worst version of myself. I hurt you in ways I can never take back. But you came back anyway. You forgave me anyway. You loved my daughters when no one else could. And somehow, you found a way to love me too." Tears were already streaming down Maya's face. Aurora noticed and came running, wrapping her small arms around Dante's leg. "You taught me that strength isn't about violence or control. It's about showing up every day and choosing love even when it's terrifying." He opened the box, revealing a simple platinum band with a single diamond that caught the sunset light. "Maya Rodriguez, will you marry me? Will you be Luna and Aurora's mother, officially? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of the second chance you gave me?" Maya looked at the man kneeling before her, At the babies who had become her entire world, at the life she never imagined she deserved. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Dante. 1,000 times yes." He stood and slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her close, careful of Luna between them. Aurora squealed and jumped, not understanding but feeling the joy radiating from her family. As they kissed beneath the dying light, the twins toddled toward the waves, their laughter mixing with the sound of the ocean, and for the first time in either of their lives, both Dante and Maya understood what it meant to be truly home. Chapter 13. The ceremony took place in the compound's garden, transformed from a fortress perimeter into something magical. White roses climbed newly installed trellises, and string lights hung between the trees like captured stars. 50 guests, no more, filled the chairs arranged on the lawn. James stood as best man. The twins, now 18 months old, served as flower girls, scattering petals with enthusiastic chaos that made everyone laugh. Maya walked down the makeshift aisle in a simple ivory dress, no veil, no pretense. Just her, finally free of shame, finally believing she deserved this. Dante waited at the altar with tears streaming down his face, not caring who saw. The man who once ruled through fear now stood vulnerable before witnesses, and that vulnerability made him stronger than he'd ever been. "I promise to choose trust over suspicion," he said during his vows, his voice steady. "To choose investigation over impulse. To protect you not by controlling you, but by standing beside you, while you protect yourself." Maya's voice trembled as she responded. "I promise to believe I'm worthy of this love. To stop running from happiness. To build a family with you that's defined not by the darkness we survived, but by the light we create together." When they kissed, Luna and Aurora clapped and shouted, "Mama! Papa!" And the garden erupted in applause. 1 year later, Maya stood in the nursery that had once been a place of torment, now painted soft blue with clouds on the ceiling. Her hand rested on her swollen belly, where their son grew strong and healthy. Luna and Aurora, now 2.5, played quietly with blocks on the floor, their reflux long managed, their trauma fading into distant memory. Dante entered and wrapped his arms around her from behind, his hand covering hers on her stomach. He kicked again. Constantly. "I think he's gonna be a fighter. He'll need to be, with 2 big sisters who'll boss him around." Dante kissed her temple. James called. Isabella's appeal was denied. Life without parole. Final. Maya nodded. She'd stopped thinking about Isabella months ago, stopped letting that woman occupy any space in her mind. Marcus was dead, killed in what the police called a gang-related incident that Maya suspected had Dante's fingerprints all over it, though she never asked, and he never told. Outside, the sound of children playing in the garden drifted through the open window. Dante had converted half the compound into a community center, offering after-school programs for neighborhood kids. The guard towers remained, but the atmosphere had shifted. The fortress was becoming a home. "I need to tell you something," Dante said quietly. "I met with my lawyers yesterday. I'm officially out. Tony's taking over everything. All of it." Maya turned in his arms, searching his face. "Dante, you don't have to. I want to. Our son deserves a father who comes home every night, who coaches Little League instead of running territory, who builds things instead of destroying them." He smiled, and it reached his eyes in a way that still surprised her. "You gave me a second chance at life, Maya. Let me actually live it." She kissed him then, deep and long, tasting salt from tears she didn't realize she'd shed. Luna came over and hugged their legs, and Aurora followed, and they stood there, a family built from broken pieces, stronger for having been shattered and rebuilt with love as the mortar. The compound that once echoed with screams now rang with laughter. The man who dealt in death now sang lullabies. The woman who thought she'd lost everything had found more than she ever dreamed possible. And in the distance, the sun set over Los Angeles, painting the sky in shades of hope. Conclusion. 3 years after that sunset proposal on the Malibu beach, the Salvatore compound had transformed into something no one could have predicted. The 12-foot walls still stood, but now they enclosed a sanctuary rather than a fortress. Luna and Aurora, now 4 years old, raced through the gardens chasing butterflies, their laughter echoing off the same marble walls that once amplified their screams of agony. Their little brother, Michael, named for the son Maya had lost, toddled after them on unsteady legs, determined to keep up with his big sisters. Maya stood on the terrace watching them play, her nursing license fully restored after a lengthy legal battle that exposed Marcus Chen's fraud. She now ran a free clinic 3 days a week from the community center Dante had built, treating families who couldn't afford healthcare. The irony wasn't lost on her. The woman once framed for medical negligence now saving lives again, supported by a man who once dealt in death. Dante emerged from his home office, No longer the hollow-eyed specter who haunted his own mansion. He'd kept his word, walking away from the criminal empire entirely. These days he invested in legitimate businesses and spent his evenings coaching youth soccer. The compound's former soldiers now worked security for his legal enterprises or had moved on to different lives entirely. In a maximum security prison 200 miles away, Isabella Romano sat in her cell, watching the years pass through a small window. The obsessive love that had driven her to murder had curdled into bitter regret, but redemption was a door permanently closed to her. Some choices cannot be unmade. James Sullivan, now head of security for Dante's legitimate business operations, kept his digital records meticulously. But these days, instead of documenting criminal activities, he recorded birthday parties, first words, soccer games, and the ordinary miracles of a family choosing joy over darkness. The story of the Salvatore family is a testament to the power of second chances and the courage it takes to accept them. Maya could have stayed broken, could have let her past define her future. Dante could have remained the monster his world tried to make him. But they chose differently. They chose to believe that people can change, that love can heal even the deepest wounds, and that family isn't about blood or perfection. It's about showing up, day after day, and choosing each other despite the scars. Sometimes the most profound transformations happen not in grand gestures, but in quiet moments. A security guard breaking protocol to comfort crying babies, a kingpin kneeling to beg forgiveness, twins calling a broken woman mama, and meaning it with their whole hearts. These small acts of courage and compassion ripple outward, changing not just individual lives, but entire legacies. The compound where babies once screamed in agony is now filled with the sound of children's laughter. The man who ruled through fear now rules his household with patience and love. The woman who thought she'd lost her purpose found it in the most unexpected place. And two little girls who suffered for months in misdiagnosed pain grew into healthy, joyful children who will never remember those dark nights, only the love that saved them. This is the story of how brokenness became wholeness, how a fortress became a home, and how love, real, messy, imperfect love, proved stronger than obsession, violence, or the weight of the past. If you enjoyed this story of redemption, second chances, and found family, please hit that like button. It really helps the algorithm share these stories with others who need to hear them. Drop a comment below and tell us which moment hit you the hardest, or share your own story of forgiveness and transformation. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss our next emotional journey, and share this video with someone who believes in the power of second chances. Your support means everything, and helps us continue bringing you stories that remind us all that no matter how dark life gets, there's always hope for a new beginning. Thank you for being part of this community.